did. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. All I was saying was, welcome to a live stream of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The game launches at the top of the hour, which is 11 p.m. where I am. Hopefully you will be able to hear me now. And yeah, I don't know why. I had all this set up, I promise you, and all of a sudden the audio settings had disappeared. But you can hear me now, and that's the important thing. So what I thought we'd do before the game starts, which as I say, it starts in about 10 minutes from now, was just to run you through some of the background on the period. Now, the game is set very specifically in 873 AD. Main character is a guy called Ivor, and he's a Viking. We all know that much. But what about the Vikings? What about this period? Now, the fascinating thing about this period is we call it the Middle Ages, or medieval, which is Latin for Middle Ages, if you didn't know that. It's also known as the Dark Ages. And the reason for that was that just a few hundred years before when this period is set, the Romans had essentially dominated pretty much the whole of Europe, certainly most of Northern Europe, and Britain was no exception. Now, in dominating Britain, they essentially unified most of the tribes that formed the country. And in fact, what we'll do is if we pull up a map of, here we go, so you can see here's a map of Britain. I mean, we call it England, or a lot of what we call England today. England is essentially that light green area that doesn't include Wales, or above Wales, the pink area, Scotland. But most of the rest of it is what we call England. We didn't call it England in those days. It was occupied by the Anglo-Saxons. Anglo is where we get the word England from, Angleland, and the Saxons were predominantly a mix of Germanic tribes that had made their way up, and the Anglo-Saxons were a mix of what kind of came from Britain in and of itself. So essentially, the Romans invaded, they took over most of that light green area that you can see there, and then around 400, 500 AD, they'd had enough, they'd run out of money, and they disappeared, leaving, the country in a reasonably good state, and their biggest gift of all, which was Christianity. Now, the truth is that actually what then happened was that the whole system collapsed, and the country became divided up into kingdoms. So if I zoom in on this so you can get a better idea. And you can see from this map the different regions that were divided up into kingdoms. So we had Northumbria, we had Mercia, and most importantly for our story, we had Wessex. Now, the reason why Wessex is important is that period, around the time of the invasion of our Vikings in the story of Valhalla, Wessex was the only area that they couldn't tame. They couldn't kind of invade it. Wessex was run by King Alfred, who is one of the main characters, the protagonists in the game, if you like. So he basically managed to keep up a fight, and the Vikings were given a lot of what we see there, Northumbria and Mercia, which became known as the area of the Danelaw. At least that's our pronunciation of it. But as you can see, Wessex down there to the bottom left was pretty much unencumbered from the Vikings. And in truth, Vikings were a fairly peaceful lot, believe it or not. They actually were more keen on prospering and farming, which is what they did a lot of. So let's just go back a few steps and ask ourselves some questions. For example, who were the Vikings? So let's have another look at a different map here. So this is a map of Northern Europe. You can see just down the bottom there we have the top of what is there called the United Kingdom. Back then, of course, it was a whole bunch of different kingdoms. And on the right-hand side here, you can see Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. These now we call, commonly called Scandinavia, the Scandinavian countries. Back then, they were known as Dane's land. It was the land of the Norsemen. And essentially, that's where our Vikings came from. Viking, as a word, actually means pirate. And most of them weren't. And in fact, most of the people that occupied these territories weren't Vikings either. They were very peaceful farmers in the main, although they did have some fairly questionable practices. One practice that was common in pretty much the whole of Europe at the time, given that the Roman law had diminished and disappeared, so you had a lot of criminality, if you like, a lot of kind of common law. One of the practices that was quite popular in those days was that and we've seen this in recent years in other countries as well. If you gave birth to a girl, they were perceived as of little value because what you actually wanted was boys to help you till your land, to help you farm, which is a hideous thing. Still goes on in many countries even today. And sadly and horrifically, it was not thought a bad thing to allow them to die. And the way that they were killed was literally just to put them out into the wilderness and let nature take its course. And this was perceived as one of the reasons why Vikings possibly decided to make their way out from their own country, because they'd actually killed off too many of their own women, believe it or not. So it was a number of things. One was they wanted to expand their farming territory. One was they needed to breed, quite simply. And so as they were master travelers, they had really managed to become expert seafarers. And another thing that was pretty unique about Scandinavians was that because it's a very mountainous country with big fjords and, can be quite unforgiving in the winter, it never got occupied by the Romans. They were left pretty much on their own. So the Romans and ultimately Christianity never really made its way, not until much later, when they adopted it themselves after traveling into Northern Europe and taking their place down there. So they couldn't. It wasn't worth them invading to the south, because France, as we know it today, was peopled by the Franks, and they had they knew what the Scandinavians could do, so they had defences that made it very hard for the Vikings to invade. But over in Britain, after the Romans left, they had weak kings. They were warring tribes, and it was ripe for the taking. And they saw how the Anglo-Saxons were all over the place, quite frankly. So it made a lot of sense for them to keep making their little trips across. Now, the key thing is you're talking about 700 and something Lindisfarne, which was a monastery, was invaded by the Vikings. And we know this. That was the first time that we have any documented evidence of the Vikings invading. And the reason they went after monasteries predominantly was because they were the guys that had all the money. They were the ones that, other than the king, they were given gold, and the locals would make sure that they got their fair share of crops and so on and so forth. It was a way of buying your way into heaven, as it were. So they were fond of invading them. But equally, they were looking to invade into territories, and a lot of the time they just walked in. There was no great need to get their swords out. They had quite a reputation. And equally, we're talking about a time where people were just used to this kind of barbarism anyway. So they just took over a lot of this part of Britain. And as I say, if we look at that map, that huge pink area ultimately was given to them just to stop, stop it, please. So that's essentially what happened. And this is the starting point. It's actually just before the Dane law came into existence, is the starting point of our game in 873. So a fascinating time. As I say, you have to think of this as very basic time. There was a vacuum after the Romans left. There were lots of kings. There were, half a dozen kings throughout this entire place, and they were very easily taken out. They didn't. A lot of them didn't have big, strong armies. York, which we can see is this area, became the headquarters, the main area for the Vikings in Britain, known then as Jorvik, now known as York. But they had as you can see, they had a fairly large territory there. And then before we're almost at the time, guys, but we're going to fire up the game. The key thing I just wanted to cover off on what is Valhalla, because you've heard the term. You're probably thinking, well, what is Valhalla? Well, Valhalla in Norse mythology, Old Norse, was the hall of the slain. It was the big hall of the dead, if you like. It was heaven. It was a majestic, enormous hall located in Asgard, ruled over by the god Odin. And Odin is a big figure in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The place was chosen by Odin. Half of those who died in combat travelled to Valhalla upon death. It was led there by the Valkyries, while the other half went to the goddess Freya's field, Folkvanga. I hope I got that pronunciation right. In Valhalla, the dead warriors joined the masses of those who died in combat. So if you were a warrior, and the Vikings were, then you wanted to. It was important that you died in battle, in being a warrior, and you would go to Valhalla, and you would have your place in the Hall of the Slain. Your other warriors and legendary Germanic heroes, because in fact the Scandinavians emanated from Northern Europe, from what we now know as Germany, as did most of Europe at the time. So there you go, folks. There's a little bit of background history for you. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to now try and fire up the game. So let's see if we get rid of some of these bits and pieces. It should be live. We'll fire it up from here and see what we get. Once it comes up, I'll also just have to fix the audio so that you can hear it. Hopefully it's live. I played Watch Dogs Assassin the other day, and that went live prior to the time they said. So here we go. Preloaded. Yeah, I know it's preloaded. Okay, so that's not quite ready by the look of things, but that's all cool. Now, we did see it pop up and initialize, so where are we? It's 11 o'clock. We'll give it to 11:01. We'll give it as long as it takes. But I know that it's 12:01 on other platforms. So let's just close that down again. We'll give it a minute. Yeah, I love history. My daughter's studying archaeology at university, and the weird thing is that I always wanted to be an archaeologist as a kid. Always, that was a thing I was massively into, and it was the study of ancient people that's always fascinated me. Not necessarily modern history, although I do love all history. It's prehistory. It's the stuff where there's not a huge amount of information, and there's not a huge amount of information on the Vikings, in fairness. A lot of what we know was written by the monks that they invaded. So, of course, they wrote very disparagingly of them. And in fact, it wasn't until the 17th century and moving into the Victorian period that we came to have a wider knowledge of the Scandinavians. Up until then, they were just seen as marauding, here we go, vicious monsters. So that looks to me like we're about to launch the game. I'm just going to attempt to get the audio fixed so that you guys can hear it as well. Choose that one. And looks like we're a few seconds away. It's had an audio capture in, audio input capture. And we want to choose game. Game. Or stream, doesn't matter. We'll pop that in there. And hurry up, game. You might hear two of me. If that is the case, let me know. And I will turn me off so that you only hear the one of me. Yep, I can see two of me. All right, here we go, folks. Let me just... Right, you should hear me. You should see a game. This looks good. I'm getting excited. I've got my controller here. Let me shrink me down. You don't need me too big, do you? So this is, it's a continuation of the Assassin's Creed story. Okay, that sounds quite loud to me. I'm sure it is for you. Let's turn it down a tad. Oh, I'm loving the music already. Yeah, you should only have one voice now. I appreciate there's a little bit of delay, so you won't have heard me necessarily. So turn the game down. You tell me if that's too quiet or too loud. And then we'll see how we go. I'm running this at 1440k and 30 frames per second. I'm looking a little bit... Hopefully it's going to be okay, but we'll see. Sounds good. Thanks, Link. Let's do this. I'll try and push it to full screen in a second. No, don't need to do that. Okay. Brightness, contrast, all looks okay to me. Okay, assassination sequence is on. Nudity, don't mind a bit of that. It's very late where I am. All this looks fine. I'm hoping that the video looks okay to you. Sound is low. Thanks, Link. I'll sort that out for you, my friend. It's difficult because with OBS I never get the feedback through my audio system. But let's pop it up to about there. You guys tell me if that's too loud. Now, I've got to tell you why I have the game, Dennis, a little earlier than most people. It's simply because if you subscribe to Ubisoft Plus, it's one of the perks is that you get it an hour earlier. In fact, some games you even get days earlier. So I'm just taking advantage of that fact, to be honest with you. Okay, I just want to launch the benchmark, which essentially just does a quick check of the video. That's right, Link. It's also different time zones as well. There she is. So what this is doing now is just running a benchmark test. I typically whack it right up to really high settings, but I don't want to do that with this while I'm streaming it, if that makes sense. Yeah, of course, Link. Absolutely, my friend. Anytime. Anytime. If I was less lazy, I'd do a series of videos on it, to be honest with you. Mike, I haven't worked in radio. I would love to. It was always a thing I wanted to do, but never did. Right, here we go. I don't know about you, but whenever I see anything to do with the Vikings, I always think of Kirk Douglas. So let's see what we've got here. Frames per second. I'm only running the stream at 30, so it's kind of maxing at 57 to 60. Typically, they when you run these benchmarks, they always turn around and give you a fairly low setting. Wow, went up as high as 77 there. But I will go with whatever it suggests so that we get a reasonably smooth stream. Okay, how are we looking here? So it's running at 4K, borderless. I'll push it to full screen. It's probably coming up to the end now. It's going to... as you can see, I'm running this on a GeForce 2060. Actually, it's 2600. I don't know why it says 2060. Maybe that's a generic. What doesn't help is OBS, which is this system I'm using to stream. Hello, Dominic. It's an absolute memory hog. In fact, encoding and streaming anything is a memory hog. So unless you use an independent device for streaming from the game, which I can do and I've done in the past. All right, what's it recommend here? 30. Okay, that's fine. I do love that with all Ubisoft games do that. Welcome back to Ubisoft Connect. Check my benefits. I could have that on I wouldn't mind having that on a t-shirt. We'll come back to that later. Yeah, you see, this is very familiar. This is kind of Assassin's Creed territory. Let's go with default. Let's go with default. And default. By default, I always choose the female character. In Odyssey as well as Valhalla, it makes zero difference to the game. Hello, Clive.
You children of gods, and heed my tale of time's beginning. All was dark. There was no sand. There was no sea. No earth, nor sky. No grass, nor wind. Till fire met ice in the gasping void.
Hendo, how are you, my friend?
And from this scream came the giant Ymir, first of all beings. Proud Ymir, cruelly killed.
Oh, I love that accent.
Yet from whose bones and blood and brains the world was made. The world you walk and war upon.
So many English words come from the Nordic countries. If you ever watch a film and leave the audio on, you can pick up so many of them. All right. Well, we got a challenge. That was easy. So I don't think I got a choice, did I, to choose male or female? Oh, well. Maybe a fairly androgynous looking individual, I suppose. Could be anything. Okay.
Eivor, here's a tune for you. Want to liven your step?
Apologies if this looks a bit steppy. I've no idea why. I hate it. This is one of the reasons I don't do a lot of streaming, because there's no reason at all why it shouldn't be keeping up. Yeah, it is on Stadia, although this isn't. If that makes any sense. I'm just going to make a change here. Let's see if that makes any difference. How's that looking to you guys? Is that looking a bit jiggy? Is it getting jiggy with it? Well, we'll go with it and see what happens. So anyway, here's our main character, Eivor, in a hall. Great graphics.
Go. So, you see our king? Yes, good. Come, Eva. Did you find the ring? Yes. Now for our little plan. You see us soaking. Quiet as a wood mouse. And surprise him with our gift. We hold it out. Like this. Look him in the eyes and you say, Styrbjörn King. May our clans be forever bond in friendship and in love. I think you can do that for me. Good. Tonight, you will be the cord that unite our people. I'm so proud of you, Eva. Get up, Olaf. Stay lucid, friend.
My sword is grown greedy. I'm ready to fight.
So nice having all of these hearty folk in our home.
Go on, have a dance, my chum. Yeah, it's quite androgynous. I think you could get away with being male or female. We may not have got to a point where we choose that yet. Yeah, come on, you've had enough dancing. I'm kind of more concerned about getting a decent stream for you guys than I am the game.
Oh, no drink in your fist? Come on, I'll find you
I
something.
can't. I have accepted for your father.
Oh, what a piece. That must be worth 2 sturdy longships. Give it here. I'll pass it on.
My father asked me, Sigurd.
Suit yourself. But you're not getting any mead.
Like a satyr works through my hammer.
When you speak with the king, hold it up to the light. Show him the fine details. See there? I etched his name in runes on the outer band. You'll show him? You are just like your father, little berserker. Skull to you.
Skull!
You see?
The serious look is because I'm desperately trying to get the stream to look as good as I'm seeing this game. But I can see there's, for some reason that I can't figure, the OBS is struggling to process it. But we shall persevere. By the way, I don't know if you can't see this, but I have got a Scandinavian sheepskin sweater on here in tribute. So I guess this just kind of introducing you to the culture. I would say graphically it's on a par with Odyssey, though. Certainly a vast improvement on Watch Dogs Legion,
Good. This was one
which was hugely disappointing to me.
in the battle on the Northern Way.
Mother,
Yes,
can we show Sigurd the can stones we stacked yesterday?
that's a good idea. We'll do that in the morning. First light.
Oh. Reminds me of, you guys have ever seen the film Beowulf, which is just an amazing animation with unbelievable music. So he's kind of making his way to the king here, I think.
Abel, wait. Skull! To Styrbjörn!
Skoll.
True king of Brugge Folga! Tonight,
Skoll, it means cheers, I think.
the new Skull! Abel,
one love.
He's so cute.
Thank you, Eivor. Now and forever, I am pledged to you.
Hearken well in
Hall of Kings. Come on, we all know this one, don't we?
on ocean steed, my words gain wing.
Odin's mead I forth will bring.
Odin's mead I forth will bring.
Ah, it's not. Sing this one every other week.
Noble deeds that honor sing. The brave men slain, Valkyria waits. Rewards for strain to Valhalla take.
Valhalla.
And horns resound the mighty horn.
Oh, go for it. Hit that note.
For those who fight! For those who fight!
Oh, under attack. Here we go. Some action.
Ready yourself!
Ish, Simeon, you can if you've got Ubisoft Plus.
Not you, Faber. Not just yet.
Right.
It is foretold. The curtains are raised. Nothing is true until it is severed from the branches of Yggdrasil.
Those graphics are amazing. Hey Eddie, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Now stop! Please! Right. Go!
So these are different warring Viking factions or Scandinavian factions. They were never invaded, so it'd be some other local king. Ooh. Yeah, Dominic, it's suddenly improved. I have no idea why.
Take the horse!
Bizarre.
Wait here.
Now it's my turn to offer you to the slave. Accept your fate. Die a coward here before your people. I will spare the rest.
I think everybody can play it within the hour.
If I give my life, will you spare my clan?
You have my word.
No, Baron! No, Baron!
He's going to Valhalla. Oh, those graphics. Of course, they've had Gods of War to compete against because it's a similar time period. Oh. No. Oh. Oh, wow. That audio. Geez, the production value in this. Of course. The Brotherhood of the Assassins.
What the hell is that? I'm seeing two different data streams overlapped in the same DNA. Not sure why.
Fix this or pull me out.
I can parse the streams with a filter. Hold on. Okay, we're good.
Are we?
I don't know what happened, but I can work around it. You'll have to pick a stream to keep things stable. There's a third option, too. I can let the Animus modulate your identity based on signal strength. It's up to you.
Here we go.
Alright, I'll lock it in and push ahead to a time where these streams are more synchronized.
Frame rate's dropped again.
How long have you been chasing me, Wolf-Kissed? 17 winters? 18? Do I now haunt your dreams? Do I warm your loins? You remember this? Ah, your father's axe. The weapon of a coward. A scorn snake.
I've no idea why that frame rate's dropping.
Few things would please me more than to kill with this
There's
blade.
nothing showing
But I
wrong at this
know
end.
you would defy me to the death, fighting for a glorious end.
Yeah, I know, Eddie. I did toy with running a separate PC, but I thought if I just do it at 1440, it probably won't be so bad.
Enthralled as a slave, humiliated. Your death would be a lonely one.
Well, I'm using my standard settings, which have optimized.
Make them suffer.
I'm using
Able Wolf-Kissed is no more. That name is dead to this world.
NVIDIA, the new NVIDIA H264
You
encoder.
will be worth your weight in silver.
I mean, I could pause it and kick it down to 1080, but it was fine for a second ago. Weird. Okay, let's take that down.
And I take your eyes, you hear me?
Wind's blowing from the south.
Let's see if that helps in a
We can
second.
tack north, then cut west. Now, what did I just tell you?
It looks good for me anyway.
I will skin you alive. You will never leave this.
No feast for you, Suman. My crew is in danger. You must be my eyes.
There's our Raven. So it's very similar controls to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If you're familiar with that, yeah, you're going to feel really at home. Although the graphics are a massive step up, even on Odyssey, which is gorgeous.
My crew is in danger. I need to reach them.
Very, very similar. I'm using a PC link. I'm not using a separate encoder. This is I'm not using a 4K encoder or anything like that.
Stronger.
I promise you, if I restarted this PC now and came back, it would be perfect. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Okay, she's got to collect these for health. But it's a first look. And for those of you that arrived a little on the late side, if you wind it back, there's 20 minutes of history. But these graphics are something else. Take care, Eddie. Speak to you soon, my friend. This is one of the advantages of obviously playing cloud, streaming cloud. You don't have any of these issues because there's no processing happening at this end. But there's something going on in the machine somewhere that's causing an issue, and it's just the way it goes. I streamed some Watch Dogs the other day. It was perfectly fine. I streamed it in 4K. Yeah, that would be really cool, Dennis. I agree. Be nice if there was some level of connection between all the games. So let's have a look. There we go. So here's the world. Oh, that's nice. A little 3D zoom in. Like that. Codex. Oh, that's going to be cute. So that'll be lore, information about the people, history, that kind of stuff. Norvège, which is where Happy Cloud Gamer comes from. Yeah, so the bitrate I've got, I've actually reduced it down. It was 25,000. I've taken it down to 15,000. I mean, YouTube says it would rather I was 9,500, but quite honestly, I normally stream everything at about 20 to 25, and it's fine. My it's yeah. Honestly, there's no rhyme or reason to it. If I literally turned this off and restarted and came back, it would be perfect. I've seen this before. It's annoying because I can't predict when it's going to happen or why. I actually restarted the machine 3 times before I went live, just to be on the safe side. So this is a progression, a skills tree. I'm loving this. So we've got 1 power. Inventory, which is the standard. That you see with all these Assassin's Creeds. Yeah, what do you stream at though? What resolution? I mean, I know that's the recommended one for Twitch, and I don't normally get an issue. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I can take it down to 9.5, which is what they're suggesting. I don't know that we'll see any difference at all. In any case, there's something weirder going on. Give me 2 seconds. Just waiting for the old delay. Yabba dabba doo. Right, there we go. Hello, everybody. So I don't know that it's massively different. I've tried a million different things. So what I thought I would do is just play a little bit more, maybe 10 minutes. Dodgy frames or no dodgy frames. And then call it a night so you guys can go and play, because I think around then your version should be live as well. But yeah, I tried dropping it down to 1080. I tried different bit rates. I genuinely have no idea what the issue is, which is, as I say, why I don't typically stream games. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it was really just to give you guys an overview of the game, which I think we can all agree looks stunning. Just actually out of interest, what are the graphic settings that we've got here? Screen is... Let's go full screen. Sometimes that can help. Refresh rate. Yeah, of course, mate. No problem at all. Not the problem. But I promise you, if I try it again at the weekend, it'll be fine. It has no rhyme or reason. It's quite odd. Right. Okay. It's even worse for you guys now. Blimey. It's bizarre. And do you know the weird thing is, what's really, really weird is that if I look at the stats, it shows absolutely no drop of frames at all on OBS. Oh, it's crashed. It's actually probably hasn't crashed. Yeah, that is so weird. There's the game. Anyway, guys, I'm going to let you go because you really don't want to watch me. You don't want to watch a grown man cry. And more importantly, you're about to get it released in wherever it is that you are. So let's do this. Enjoy the game. It's all good. And thanks for watching. And at the very least, I hope you got some fascinating Viking facts. There you go. Look at that. No game, full FPS. Yeah, it's quite odd. Quite odd. Anyway, there you go. It just can't handle it. Just can't handle it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all tomorrow on Generation X with Clive, which will be fun. And this just my first impressions of this game is it looks absolutely stunning. I think you're going to love it. I'm certainly going to love it, and I will catch up with you all anon. Thanks for watching.